Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hilltop Retro Shop. So I want to do an update on the car and show you what's been going on for the last 2 weeks and also show you what I'm working on tonight. So let's dive right in. So one of the most recent things I worked on was I went ahead and did a block sand on the hood and hood scoop, and most of it does actually look really nice. There was a few areas like around the vents here that was stamped that kind of had a little bit of a slight low, and then also if you look under the hood, you see like the hole for the hood scoop goes through. It had a few small little low spots right in here. So I think hopefully this primer job right here will get that taken care of. But overall, it does look really good. So I think it's going to be in good shape. It would be awesome if that could end up being the final prime, but we'll see. Excuse the mess. We're gearing up for Halloween, so a lot going on here. So over here, the fenders, of course, in the last couple shorts you've seen, I was priming and blocking on the fenders, and they have turned out really nice. There's a little bit of work left to do, kind of in this area here, but nothing too bad. I'm hoping that will be the final prime on that one. Sorry for the yappy dog. On the passenger side, I also got done not that long ago, putting a fresh coat of primer on the fender. Now, I don't know, on this side here, like I said, right in here, this edge, just the very back edge has a little bit of a low spot. So hopefully prime and block will get it. If not, I might do a little small bit of glaze, but I think overall it will be okay. Now, there were like the elbow dents in the tops of the fenders, or, people work on the cars and put their elbow down on it. I had to go ahead and fix, several of those when I first started this. There was a very slight spot. I went ahead and put an extra coat of primer there, and I think it'll block out just fine now. So, feeling pretty good about the fenders. Overall, they do look pretty good. So that's nice. Most recently, I've jumped into working on the rear bumper strips. As you can see here, got some epoxy on some of it. Went ahead and gave them a good block sand. So hopefully that right there, after a couple coats of primer, will be okay. One thing that is very interesting to note is that these doors are not actually flat, which I always thought they were. But if you noticed, it starts out here and it kind of curves into the quarter, but it kind of curves in. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you take a flat edge, like a paint stick or something like that, and you lay it here, if you notice, like there's actually a little small gap. Now it's not a whole lot, but there is a slight gap. Now the frustrating part is I've checked with several other guys that I know that have these cars, and they all have that gap. But some of them are more or less, it just depends. And for some reason, it seems like the passenger doors do not have as much as a gap as the driver door. As you can tell, this one's nowhere near as much. It is still there, but it's not as bad. So what's frustrating is trying to get the passenger door to match the driver door. The driver door has a little bit more of a dip in it, and it's causing me a little bit more headache. So it's taking more priming blocks on this side. But at the time when I first did the metal work, I tried to work that area. It wasn't moving. So I did some more research and realized that no, they actually are curved there. So I thought that was rather interesting. The only thing, like I said, that sucks is the fact that now they don't match. So I'm trying to work on this door on the driver's side, kind of bring that up to match the other side. So it's fun. But anyways, it is looking pretty good. But let's move on. Now, I'm sure you probably noticed, I have actually been doing some block sanding on the driver's side quarter. The idea I'm trying to do is just to kind of like get one ready for primer. And if I'm not, ready to primer, go ahead and start kind of sanding the next spot just to kind of stay ahead to help kind of keep progress going. Now, I did sand all the way up, behind here. The idea is to kind of come up to about in this area. But I don't want to get any overspray on this part right now because I'm not ready for it. So you guys may remember on this quarter panel here, this whole area right here was just caved in and it looked awful. And so, as you can tell, I got just a small little burn through right there. So, I mean, it looks pretty good. I definitely got, I haven't blocked the bottom side yet, but, as far as like used to, this whole area was just completely caved in. It turned out amazing. And I really do think that hopefully this should be really good. I dread it just because it makes me nervous because I don't want to screw it up. Because I mean, like I said, right now it does look pretty good, but it's got to be blocked again, and then hopefully, if this is if all this right here turns out like this, then we might be in good shape. Now there is, a couple unfortunate little chips with the spoiler. You gotta be careful. I wasn't, if you can't tell, but you can chip the primer pretty easy going in and out with the spoilers. So I gotta fix that, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal. The goal is to put 2 to 3 coats of primer on the whole door, and then in this section here, put a nice good 4th coat to try to help bring this area more flat. Then over here, I'm gonna try to get a couple coats on these bumper strips because they do look really good, but they could definitely use a little bit more love. And then over here, I hate to bring this up, but we're going to. So if you recall, I did some work on my spoiler, and well, I made a whoops. So y'all might remember me getting these spoilers all nice and looking good, but you might notice that there's a slight color difference. So if you notice, I mean, it looks okay now, but it didn't the other day. As you can tell, it's kind of, it's not the prettiest, but it's underneath there. You're never gonna see it anyways. So I had it on the car, and I was messing with something on the bottom of the trunk, and my elbow hit on the car. I went to move my arm, my elbow caught the top of the spoiler, heard a loud pop noise, and it was cracked. So I had to go back in and repair it. Like I said, it does look pretty good. It's not perfect, but I do think a primer block should take care of it. But it was very heartbreaking. So I had to kind of come back over here and refix this part, but thankfully it was something fairly simple, just aggravating to do. But anyways, the idea is to get those, and the other spoiler end, and then we're going to jump back onto this, start working on the quarter and getting it ready. So let's knock out this primer. All right, so one thing I gotta do is I got to shake the primer. So I'm just gonna be using some Nason. So I'm gonna get this in the paint shaker to go ahead and get this mixed up good. I'm ready to go. So I just don't have a paint shaker yet, so it's just Smith & Wesson here. All right, now on to mixing. So the next thing that I need to do is the gun still has the 1.3 tip and not a 1.8. So the epoxy I use a 1.3. So I need to change out the tip of the gun. So I gotta take the air cap off. This is kind of a little cheap cup that I use to keep everything when I clean the gun. I usually leave a little bit thinner in the cup just so I know that it's not gonna harden up inside if I miss anything. So go ahead and empty that out. Set that to the side. Excuse the mess. I've been kind of full bore working on that. I haven't really picked up after myself. So, all right. So here's some screw and nozzle. 1.3. You take out the needle, just out right there. Unscrew it. Take the cap or the knob and the spring out. Needle. The 1.8 needle, it's a little bit bigger than the other one. Just push it right in, put the knob on there. Now once you get it started, what I usually do is I just squeeze the trigger, turn it until I feel pressure. So right about here, yeah, right there's where I feel pressure. So once you start feeling the trigger come out, I usually turn it about one to like 1.5 turn, something like that. Right around about 3/4 of a turn. Then you take your nozzle, and you just slip it right on there. Oh, now you don't want to wrench these things on there too tight because sometimes they don't want to come off. And kind of cinch it down where it snows. Air cap back on. And there you go. Make sure you're. There we go, just like that. All right, so now that the gun's set up, we got to get the primer mixed, because the primer only has about a 30-minute window before it kicks over. And once it kicks over, you don't want it in that gun, because these guns are way too expensive to let this stuff come up. So we got the gun ready to go, regulator on it. We'll set it to the side. All right, so this is just kind of a quick little tool tip for those of us that are trying to do these cars at our house that, you know, don't have the highest end equipment or anything like that. Here's something that can help you out a lot. Now, most paint guns, now this is an Iwata, but you know, a lot of guns that you buy, they come with a big metal cup, and they do the work good, but they have like the little pinhole in the top, so as the paint flows out, it doesn't create a vacuum, it pulls air and it fills the cup, and they work. But if you ever tilt it too far, it can splash out, and then if that little hole ever clogs up, it doesn't flow right. It's just a pain in the butt. Now, when I worked at the dealership, we used these little 3M adapters right here, and we had these cups. Well, they're expensive, and so Harbor Freight has the Spectrum paint kits, and they have different ones. These are refills because I've already done the original kit, but you get a cup. Now, it does have mixing ratios on it. I would rather use a mixing cup because you never know if these are actually accurate or not, but the cup does work good. You have these liners that fall right in. Then when you mix your paint in the cup or whatever you're doing, you put a strainer in here. You pour everything through it, toss the strainer, take your lid, and it snaps down just like that. See, it's a sealed container. Has this locking ring that goes on top. Now, they get a little bit of primer buildup. They don't lock the best. Anyways, you take your gun, you flip it over, and it usually cooperates a little bit better, but you can see it locks right on there like that. Now the cool thing about this is that you can paint upside down, you know, vertically, sideways, it doesn't matter. One other tip is put the cup on like this and pull the trigger, and you'll see your material rise to the top, and once it goes up in here, be watching. As soon as you see it start spraying out, stop. You've taken all the air out, and now you can spray this way, and even upside down with no leaks, no kind of problems, just smooth spraying. So I think these are like $1 a liner. So it works out. I think it's like $10 for a kit of 10, and that's my go-to. So save yourself some money, hit up Harbor Freight and get one of these, because I promise it will help you out. Alright, so this Nason primer mixes 4 parts primer to 1 part activator. So you're going to be looking at your cup. So this is the 4-to-1 bar right here. So say you want to mix like up to the 5. So you're going to go up to 5. It's going to be 4 right there. And which I don't know if you can really see this or not. Be a little bit closer, hopefully you can see it. So if you're going to say you're going to go up to the 5. So say you want like 12 ounces. So roughly over here, the 5 is close to 12 ounces. So you'll mix the primer to the 5, and you'll go from the activator up to this 5. So that'll be 4 parts primer, then 1 part activator. And that'll give you roughly about 12 ounces of primer. So it's kind of a neat way to try to know how much primer you need. Of course, like I said, with doing a bunch of random parts, it's hard to know. But anyways, let's get some primer mixed. Alright, now once you mix this, once you put the activator in it, it only has a pot life of about 30 minutes. So you have to get all that primer out of that gun in 30 minutes, or it's going to start to set up in the gun. You're going to have a big headache. So basically you want to make sure everything's ready to go, and then once you start to put that hardener in it, it's go time. Alright, let's get to it. All right, guys, here is the final product for this time. On each end of the door, I went ahead and did an extra coat. I did a fourth coat on the actual body line itself. And then from probably around here back, I did a fourth coat. So the whole door has 3 coats. And then this treble areas had 4. And then as you look over here, bumper strips each got 3. So hopefully that'll be enough for these to sand out and look pretty good. And then last but definitely not least, after all the effort it's taken to mess with this spoiler, went ahead and gave the spoiler 2 coats because, I mean, it still had the other coats I need to sand, but it's almost like it was never broke. So I think it's looking pretty good. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. So, leave me a comment down below if you have any questions, let me know. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here at the Hilltop Retro Shop. So if you haven't already, subscribe and support the channel. I appreciate it. But until then, you guys have a fantastic night. And I'll see you at the shop.